And we all have that part of ourselves where we want to get really tribal and get really grounded.
Hello and welcome to the Feminine as Fuck podcast. I'm your host, Monica Yates, a period and ICF certified women's life coach, and I help women to harness the power of their period and connect to their feminine flow. In these episodes, we will be talking about all things periods, hormones, confidence, health, food, money, sex, business, feminine flow, your brain, energy, and all the stuff that goes through our heads. You will walk away from each episode with new chicken nuggets and truth bombs, as I don't have a filter and I love talking about all the shit that people are thinking but too afraid to say.
Ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen being the key listeners for probably today's episode because it was requested by you guys, I'm very excited to jump on and talk about period sex. I actually can't believe I haven't done a podcast about period sex earlier because I fucking love period sex. Like, I love it more than regular sex. It's just like messy and dirty. And I was actually saying the other day to somebody, it's like I look really clean and tidy on the outside and very like, you know, I look very like sophisticated. But then when you like get to know me, I'm actually like really fucking dirty, like in the bedroom, but also just like generally in life. Like I'm not this clean person. Anyway, so that's like full me and my feminine. Just love the fucking dirtiness. I love period sex. And we're going to talk about this. Now, before we like dive straight in, I want to obviously let you all know that this is my take on period sex. There are some things in there that are like facts, but like energetically, but I also want to just like put out there that every woman's period is very different and every woman is different. And like if you are a woman that is not connected, or if you're with a woman that is not connected to her cycle, doesn't love her period, has really bad period pain, or finds it gross, all that sort of stuff, the likelihood of her wanting to like have period blood like outside of her is probably very fucking slim. So, you know, this isn't like a general every woman loves period sex, because I've met women that haven't loved period sex, but I've also met women where they've been my clients where they quote unquote didn't like period sex, and then they fell in love with their period, and then they loved period sex. So like before I was in love with my period and in love with being a woman and like okay with touching my blood, if someone said period sex to me, I'd be like, that's fucking disgusting, as if you would do that. But because I'm now like, fuck yeah, I love the blood, I love period sex. Like, I'm sad when it's over because I'm like, oh, damn it, now I have to wait another month. Like, that's how much I love it, okay? So this is going to be different for every woman. So this is my take on it with my relationship with my cycle and what it is now, and the fact that I don't get period pain and I do get really horny during my period. So every woman is different. Now, if like chances are that she's not going to want to cover herself with it if she's not into it and if you're not into it. So if I'm talking to guys in this episode, so women just understand that. So if you as a man are grossed out by periods, there is an element of like shame about her body that gets energetically like passed on to us. So if I'm like, do you like period sex? And they're like, no, it's like, oh, or another example is if I am talking about my period, just generally not with sex, or talking about my cycle, or telling about my job, and they scream, they go, oh, when I like say like period, or like, oh yeah, I'm probably gonna be my period next week, and they're like, oh, I did not need to know that. That immediately causes like shame that's put on us, well, definitely for me at least. And I can speak to a lot of women would be the same with this. It puts shame on like our bodies of like, oh, there's something dirty. And it reinstills that idea that there is something dirty about our bodies. So if you believe, even if you don't consciously believe it, subconsciously you're showing it to us. If you subconsciously believe women's periods are a bit like, ugh, there is no way that we're going to want to open up on that really deep level, because the thing with period sex, and especially for me and for a lot of my clients, is that we will only have period sex with somebody that we have like an actual connection with and that we feel so safe with, because that is our most sacred time of the month. It is like creation is coming out of our body, right? It's very vulnerable and you have to be very trusting to the other person. And if you are not able to feel, like if your heart can't open that deeply to the other person in safety, vulnerability, trust, openness, then we will not have period sex with you. right? So if you put any shame on us around our bodies, around our period, it's going to close us off to maybe you just even overalls. Like if that happens to me, if a guy is like grossed out about periods, I'm like, right, well, this ain't gonna fucking work. So it closes me off to that, because also I'm just like, oh my God, like how old do you get over it? It's fucking blood, like seriously. And I so understand that men and women have grown up in a culture where periods are kind of like ill, because you got to remember, guys, like blood is always seen as something bad is happening. Blood is generally always like you've cut yourself or you've hurt yourself. It's like an open wound. And so generally blood actually means danger in our brain. So you actually have to, like, I understand why it's hard for guys, because in your brain, blood means danger. So there's fucking blood coming out of a chick's pussy. You're going to be like, fucking danger, danger. Rob, what's that thing in Lost in Space? Danger, danger, Will Robinson. Lol. If nobody knows Lost in Space, they're obviously like not. They're obviously a lot younger than me, because I think I was probably one of the last generations to watch it. I think it was because my parents watched it when they were little, so then I watched it. Whatever. Point being, I understand that blood evokes danger. So you have to really work on actually getting comfortable with periods, and don't, like, it's almost, I'm wondering whether I'm just like, this is just coming through. Like, it's almost like you don't see blood, like your periods as blood. You got to just see it as like a period. Like, it's like almost different. It's kind of like, actually, even for me, just thinking about this, I don't see, like when I'm just in the moment of like having my period, yes, I'm like, there's blood, but it's not like there's blood. It's like, oh, that's my period. And it's almost like in my brain, there's now a difference between periods and blood. And I feel like we as women have maybe learnt that, because for a lot of women, when they first got their period, they thought they were bleeding and dying, right? But then we learnt, oh, that blood isn't blood. It's our period. Yeah, because like, so when you cut yourself, that blood that's coming out of you is actually a different source of blood it's a different form of blood compared to the lining of your uterus. The lining of your uterus is like a home, and then it's shedding, and it's like, I'm almost trying to like reframe this for you guys. It's like shedding, and it's like, it looks like blood, but it isn't blood. I'm wondering whether that's going to help you. So I understand that for some of you, this can be like quite off-putting, this topic, but it's really important, because the more that you are like in love with a woman's body, the more she will surrender and open her heart. But if there is any sort of like iffiness around her natural fluids, for want of a better word, then that's really going to put like a bit of a shadow over whatever relationship, whatever container that the two of you are in. So with period sex, obviously women get their period once a month. Now, if your partner has really horrendous periods, the chances of her wanting to have sex are literally zero, except if she knows about period sex. Because when you have period sex, when you have an orgasm, not actually like necessarily the sex, but it's more about having an orgasm. When you have an orgasm, it helps to relax your blood vessels. And if she's got really, really bad cramps, it can actually help ease the cramps. This is also in the week before her period. A lot of women will get drier. They don't want to have as much sex before their period. Well, not me, but like a lot of women do. And this is women that, when I say a lot of women, it's because a lot of women have hormonal imbalances. So if your woman is like fucking hunky-dory on the hormone train, then this probably won't apply to her, because she'll be like feeling good all the time, and she'll know how to make herself feel good. And she'll know that at different times of her cycle, she needs different things from you, and you'll probably be aware of that because she's communicated that to you. So having sex right before your period, having sex with her before her period or on her period, if she's open to it, will actually help her period. But if she has really bad cramps on her period and she doesn't know about this, the chance of her wanting to have sex is pretty slim, because she's like, no one fucking touch me, no one go down there, I'm in so much pain, I couldn't think of anything worse. And you really need to respect that. And in fact, the more that you respect what she wants, it doesn't mean you have to be like submissive to her. It means respecting. The more that you respect what she wants, the more she will want sex from you, because it's fucking hot. A man that just respects your desires, it's like, I want to rip your clothes off right fucking now. It's hot, okay? It's really hot. That combined with trust in herself. And I always come back to this, because I was speaking about this with a friend last night at dinner, actually. Like, the reason why women can't surrender into their feminine is because they don't trust themselves in that state. They are worried that they're going to get carried away or lost or be manipulated. And it's because they can't draw their own boundaries. But a woman that has her own back and has boundaries and can speak of her boundaries and has self-respect for herself, she won't lose herself in these states, and therefore she will allow herself to consciously be submissive and feminine and receptive and letting you take the control. In fact, she'll want you to take the control. Like, she will fucking energetically like pass that shit on to you, and maybe even she'll say it to you of like, you know, I really want you to like ravish me, or I really want you to just like fuck me, and like that is like, please fucking dominate me, like ravish me, right? Don't make love to me, fucking ravish me, like slam me up against a fucking wall. That's what we want. Now, that's what we want majority of the time, especially around ovulation, but during your period, you may want different things. So when a woman is, not your period, if you're listening as a guy, but when a woman is on her period, and this is generalization, it's different for every woman, so tune into your woman and have a conversation with her, have a really open and honest conversation. When a woman gets her period, generally she's going to want more soft, sensual, like love making, over like hardcore slam me against a wall, rip my clothes. There's going to be like a little bit of a difference. And like, I don't even know what mine is. I think mine probably fucking changes every 10 seconds. I don't even know. So you kind of want to even like check in with her. Like, you could say, for example, like, hey babe, like, how do you want me to please you tonight? Like, give me a hint. What vibe do you want? And she can obviously give like, I want a soft vibe, or I want you to look after me, or I want you to ravish me. Now, you'll kind of also know the difference, because I feel like for me especially, if I'm in more of like a really soft and quiet kind of like very inwards mood, I want more like soft, sensual touch. But if I'm in like a hyper high energy mood, fiery, I'm like, dominate me, like get me more into my feminine. I'm really in my fire. And so it's also good to know and tune into like, and have a conversation with your partner about this. Like, know what element she is more of. So you've got like fire, air, wood, earth, and water. And like, I am fire, right? I've got a lot of Sag, a little bit of Gemini, and I've got like fucking zero water, and I've got a bit of air, and the air obviously elevates the fire in my chart. And then when I say chart, I mean like birth chart according to astrology. And then I'm also, in terms of human design, if you're familiar with human design, I'm a generator with an open throat chakra and a dominant sacral chakra, so like a lot of energy. And then I'm also a 8 on the Enneagram scale. So there's just like a lot of intensity and a lot of fire and passion and energy, a lot of energy. So when I'm in like a really high energy state, it's like, I need you to dominate me because I'm very hyper right now, and I need you to like force me, but I'm consciously letting you force me, like force me to be like taken. Like, that's what I want. And I'm in that really like sensual, sassy mood. So it's like, fucking take me. But if I'm more inwards and cozy and that sort of stuff, then I'm like, I want you to like look after me sort of vibe. So it depends on your period. And like my period, when I bleed with the new moon, I go have a more inwards bleed. Like, I'm very much more like, my energy is more like in. But then when I was bleeding with the full moon, my energy was very out on my period. So I would want to be ravished. And also, I'm going to throw in there, it also totally depends like where you are in the relationship. If you're in the beginning of a relationship, like for me, if I'm in the beginning of a relationship, I want to be fucking ravished, right? Like, I want to be ravished most of the time, especially if it's like a very hot and heavy relationship. Like, there's a lot of sexual energy. If there's a lot of sexual energy and I'm being very, very sensual and flirty and sassy and dirty, then I want you to ravish me. But if I'm being like cozy and like more quiet, I'm going to say, because I'm not generally a quiet person. If I'm being more quiet, then I want you to look after me. So I really encourage you guys to tune into what your partner is desiring in that aspect. And even if you're in a same-sex relationship and you're the masculine energy in that relationship or in that moment, tune into what your partner is wanting and then go with that. Now, the reason why period sex is also so delicious for a lot of us is that your period, the energy of your period is actually, or her period, is actually very grounding. If you're a woman listening to this, if you haven't already, I would encourage you to pull your period blood like through your hands when you next get your period, or like touch your period blood. And if you tune into the energy, you'll feel that it's very earthy. When you have sex on your period, it's like ultra tribal, ultra grounding, and ultra earthy. So I'm that woman where we'll have period sex and it's like, oh, okay, people think also it's like going to be all over you and like it's going to be soaked through the mattress. Depending on how heavy your period is, like your period sex doesn't actually get that messy. Sometimes I wish it got messier, but it's actually when you have period sex, if it's like all over you, like I love it to be all over me, and I find it so grounding and so like it really roots me into the earth. And I'm like, no, I don't want to shower this shit off. It's fun. So if you have period sex, or if your woman is open having period sex, the reason why it's also so delicious is because it is so grounding and it's so tribal. And we all have that part of ourselves where we want to get really tribal and get really grounded and get really fucking like in with the earth. And this does it. It's also such an intimate like container to be in, really intimate. You are sharing your most vulnerable part with somebody. And if you're a guy listening to this, you're being part of the most vulnerable part of a woman's cycle. So by honoring her during this time and pleasing her and like loving her period and just like fucking getting all up in it, like, yes, this is so delicious. It's so fucking hot. Like when a guy is like, oh yeah, I love period sex, I'm like, oh my God, I love you. Like it's so fucking hot because it's that part of like, it's kind of like when a guy says, oh, I love pregnant women. Yeah, I can't wait for my like future partner or wife or whatever to be pregnant. It's so hot. And it's just like, oh my God, yum. Because it's like them giving us that like protective, providing validation of like being a woman fully in your womanhood is so hot. And that's really healing to a lot of us women, right? Because a lot of us put shame on those things. And we put shame on it a lot of the time. It's actually because we think that men shame it, and biologically we want to please men because we want that protection and providing and the financial security. And if we are perceiving that men, you know, are like, oh, periods, then we're going to be like, oh, periods, or oh, pregnancy, and we're going to be like, oh, yuck. Like, but when a man is like, oh my God, no. When my woman is pregnant, I was just like, fuck, I could not get enough of her. I'm like, oh my God, that is so fucking hot. And for me, when a guy is like, oh, periods, or like, no, I think pregnant women are just like, ugh. I'm like, you are disgusting. I'm so turned off by that because I'm like, and this doesn't mean that he's a bad person. It's just that like me, I'm so turned off by that. And it's because like biology, right? Like our brain is wired to want to be protected, provided, and loved for, and fully seen, heard, ravished in all of our essence and all of our expression. And if you are not feeling like you can be fully yourself and fully expressed with that person, naturally there's going to be some question marks, some red flags that are raised. You know, if you can't get the sex, the love, the whatever that you want and you need from that person, then there's going to be red flags. Like you are going to close your heart off to him. But when you can, or her, but when you can fully open your heart to him and her, and they fully accept you, for all the period sex and the slamming up against the wall and the lovemaking and the pregnancy and then this and then that, it actually will deepen your relationship because you're like, oh, for both of you, it's like, oh, if I'm fully myself, I will be fully received. And that is beautiful. And a woman wants to be fully seen, heard, loved, taken, and then we will be able to fully receive you. So we want you to fully take us and fully receive us, and then we will fully surrender and receive to you because you guys will give to us and our heart's fully open. And if our heart is fully open, our body's fully open, our pussy's fully open, then we can receive all of you, which is like fucking delicious for you. So basically, if you are wanting to get more comfortable as a guy with period sex, I would recommend that you, if possible, are obviously with a woman that is comfortable with period sex as well. The more comfortable that she is, the easier it's going to be for her. Now, the other thing is that, and hopefully she'll already know this, but it is common that sometimes guys, like you guys will go soft when you're having period sex because you see the blood and your brain goes danger. And so like, why the fuck would you be hard when there's danger around you? Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's fine if that happens. And it's important that as a woman, if you're listening to this, that you also give space for that to happen, and you don't shame him or like laugh about it. It's like, oh, don't worry about it. It's fine. Like, it's like, don't make a big deal about it, because it actually isn't a big deal. You got to remember that generally for our brain, blood, especially for a man, blood equals danger, bad, someone's been hurt. So that's really important. The other just like important thing just to throw in there that I just thought of as well is just so you guys know, whilst like for me, because of my roundabout days of ovulation, like period sex is safe in terms of not falling pregnant. Make sure that you know your day of ovulation, because if you're ovulating on day like 5 of your cycle, you could have, sex on the last day of your period and you actually could fall pregnant because the sperm lasts inside of you. So for a number of days. So just make sure that you also know when you're ovulating, because you want to make sure that you're ovulating like well after your period. And then also with period sex, it's great. You don't have to worry about falling pregnant because you're on your period. And don't think every single woman is okay with it. She needs to know her cycle. And then you'll know whether it's okay or not okay, whether the coast is clear. So for men, basically what I want you guys to understand is that, number one, if you have shame around a woman's period and you kind of express that to her, whether it's like actually telling her like, ew, periods, yuck, or whether it's via your eyes, or like you can't keep a fucking poker face when she mentions periods, or you get a little bit like squeamish, that energetically will shut her down from possibly the extent of you, or at least like that she will actually, like what will happen is that she will create her own shame on herself from her period. And like I've noticed this even within myself, that if a guy is like, oh, no, don't tell me about periods. Well, now I'm kind of a little bit like, okay, but a part of me is still like, seriously? Like, and it doesn't, I don't let it affect me. Like, it doesn't create shame on my period, but there's a little tiny part of me that just goes, and it makes that part of my brain that's like, conditioned by society and that continues to be exposed to it kind of go, it's a bit gross. Even though 99% of my brain is like, fuck yeah, period. That's just that one little tiny bit that we all have that will just go, and it will just kind of almost make you question. So make sure that you as a guy have gotten comfortable with periods. And that could be as simple as listening to some of my episodes about periods. So you hear the word period a lot more times. It could be, following some period accounts on Instagram. It could be reading a book about periods. It could be, watching a documentary. I don't know if there's any documentaries, or like reading some articles about periods, even if they're like kind of shitty, like getting comfortable with the word period and seeing blood, or like hearing about it, or even saying to your partner, like, I want you to tell me more about where you are in your cycle. And that will just hopefully start to get you more comfortable. I also have actually a dude's guide to period phases. I would highly recommend, I'll put the link in the show notes. I'd highly recommend that you guys download that and read it. It's pretty simple. I've made it really simple for you guys because you're men, so you like simple shit. I get that. And it basically goes through how a woman, an average, general woman, is going to feel throughout the different phases of her cycle and how you can support that. So even just you like getting more in touch with a woman's cycle and being more educated around it is going to help heal any parts of you that kind of go, oh, like I don't really want to know about like women's cycles and periods and all that jazz. Because for majority of women, unless they have shame around their period, a man that's interested, it's hot. Like it's hot. I really don't need to tell you everything about it and go all TMI in terms of like if I'm in a relationship with you, I really don't need to do that in order to feel good. But, for him to just like honor where I am in my cycle and it's kind of sometimes just really randomly be like, oh, where are you? Like don't make a big deal out of it because it's not a big deal. You don't need to, well, for me at least, you don't need to be like, oh, what day are you on today, babe? Like, how are you feeling? Like that would drive me nuts. I'd be like, fuck off, because it isn't like I'm sick or something wrong with me. You don't need to ask me every day, like, where are you in your cycle? Like, what can I do for you to make you feel good? Because, like, that would just be kind of overwhelming for me, at least. Sometimes I just be like, oh, my God, just, like, I don't know, be normal. Like, so, like I was saying in that last episode that I did for you guys, like, generally for us, we're not asking for a guy that's like, how's your heart chakra feeling? We're just asking for a guy that communicates properly and that is protective, supportive, and, like, maybe sends us good morning and good night messages. That's all we're asking for. Make sure you get rid of any shame. Another thing with periods, having period sex is that you want to make sure that you kind of are like tuned into what sort of energy is she encompassing and therefore what sort of sex is she wanting. Also, like, does she have painful periods? That's a really important one to kind of go with. Another one is also, so when you have period sex, like, you do want to generally lay down a towel because it will seep through the sheets and you don't want it to go into the mattress because that would just get really annoying. I mean, you should make sure that the bed has a mattress protector on it. I would check that, especially if you're in a hotel, because you don't want it to go through the mattress, but I would lay down some towels for that. It's fine if you want to have a shower afterwards. I don't take any offense to that whatsoever. I don't want to have showers afterwards. I'm like, no, I like this. And so I just lay in it all night. But if you're like, you don't need to be like, okay, I'm just going to go have a shower now, like, and kind of creeped out. You can just be like, you can say like, do you want to come have a shower with me? And like really chill. Like, do you want to come have a shower with me? Or I'm going to go have a shower. Do you want to come? And just like really like, there's no shame wrapped in there. It's just like, yeah, like, I'm going to have a shower. Like, I'm going to also have a shower in the morning and I'm also going to have a shower after I go to the gym. Like, that kind of energy of, like, I'm just having a shower. Not like hey, I have blood all over me. I'm just going to go have a shower now because I'm disgusted. Not like that, right? It's just got to be super, super chill and easy. Beautiful. And then what was the other thing that I mentioned about period sex that I need to recap on? I can't remember. I don't know. Anyway, so I hope this has helped with, I don't know. Oh, I can't remember what it was. Anyway, go back and re-listen to it if you need to. I hope this has helped with giving you guys some tips about period. Oh, the tribal thing. That's right. It feels really earthy and grounding. So for women that are tapped into that, a lot of women will actually start to love period sex because you don't get that level of grounding and tribalness and earthiness when you're just like ovulating, right? Like that's different. So I would definitely read The Dude's Guide to Period Phases, and I would definitely have a conversation with your partner about how she feels about period sex, what comes up for her, is she comfortable with it? Is it something that she wants to explore together? Maybe she's like, I'm intrigued, but I'm not comfortable. And you can go with that. You can be like, cool, like me too. Let's like try it out together. Maybe we just start on the last day of your period. It's like a little bit of blood. For some women, they are okay with period sex, but not on day one. They're like, don't fucking touch me. So honoring that and just really honoring, guys, where she is at. Does she just want cuddles? Does she just want you to make her dinner? Does she just want a bath run? Does she want sex? Does she want to be ravished? Like, get in tune with that and ask her in like a sexy way as well. You don't need to say to her like, I want to connect with you and I want to know, you know, how would you like me to please you? Oh, I'm trying to say it in like a really wanky way. You know, like, how does your heart want me to please you tonight? Like, that's kind of like sometimes like, it's kind of like when, this is kind of like the talk of the town right now. It's like, how do you ask for permission to enter a woman without sounding like kind of weird? Because it's like, does asking for permission turn you off? And there's a way, right? You could say like, this is just general sex talk now. You could say like, let me just pause this and think for a sec. So it's kind of two ways to do this. Like, if you're in the beginning of a relationship and you're wanting to like, quote unquote, ask for permission, if you say it in a really sexy way, great. You can also like, this is why it's important for you guys to understand body language of a woman, because if she's like arching her back and like really in that receiving energy, she's like, fucking yes, like obviously, what else? But if there's any like squirmishness, this is also important for you as a woman, like communicate via your body language. But if there's any squirmishness or like no, then like also honor that. But if you're unsure, then just ask, but don't make it like am I allowed to enter you? Or am I allowed to put my penis inside of you? That I would kind of be like, seriously, dude? This is me personally. But if you sound like a really sexy voice, like, hey babe, can I enter you now? Like in a really like slow, sexy, kind of almost like whisper in my ear as you're kissing my ear, I'd be like, oh my God, yes. And it would almost make me like want you more because I've had to wait for a second and like give you permission. So like tune into how your woman likes to be. Like everyone's going to be different, right? Like I'm going to be different from like, you know, the average, like another just average woman. So tune into how she likes it. Really, you don't have to ask her all the time in terms of like, how do you like this? How do you like this? But you can also just like get familiar with her body language, right? Or like ask her like, oh, do you like this? And also at the same time, whilst you're asking her, what is her body language doing? So you can learn for next time, okay, if she's like doing this or if she's like digging her nails into my arm, that means fuck yes, I'm doing things right. Or she's like, oh my God, fuck. And then at the same time that she's done that, you've said, do you like this? And she's like saying that, or digging your fingernails, like digging your fingernails, and do you know, like that's a yes. So hopefully this has helped a little bit with you guys in terms of period sex and whatnot. The last thing I just want to quickly mention is also that dirty sex is fun. It really is. If you are a woman listening and you are worried about like how you're looking, or am I doing it right? Or does my stomach look weird at this angle? Like all of those things, and like shit, like what does my hair look like? And has half my makeup been wiped off my face? All of those thoughts that go through your head, or even if you're a man and you're worrying, that like if you're in your head thinking whatever thoughts that you're thinking, you are operating from your ego and not from the place that you want to be operating from. So with period sex as well, you have to be really okay with mess, and that means being really in your body. Like period sex requires letting go of egotistical thoughts of how sex should look, how I want it to look, keeping the sheets a certain way, or me looking like a certain thing. Like period sex is going to be dirty, and I love dirty sex. So you also need to be okay with dirty sex and like really embrace dirty sex, because when you let yourself fully go, so it can get like dirty and messy. And I don't mean dirty in like a sexy way. I mean dirty as in like hair is everywhere, like knotted, fucking drool is in places it shouldn't be, or whatever. That sort of dirty, messy sex, that's free sex. That is sex where you are so in your body and out of your head. And that's how you have like the transcendental sex, where you are just like on another fucking like level of the universe. That's what you want, because you're so out of your head and you're so deep within your body. And I really feel like period sex is almost like a portal, because you have to let go of your head and the shit that goes on in your mind. You have to let go of it in order to let yourself fully be in that present moment, and actually being in full enjoyment and fully in your body, which is going to give you the most amount of bliss. So thank you for sending me through via Instagram your suggestions about what you guys want me to talk about on the podcast, because I really appreciate it. Make sure you downloaded that Dude's Guide to Period Phases, because it is really helpful. And like I said initially in the previous episode, please make sure that if you have not already messaged me about wanting to work with me in the new year, if you're a man or if you're a woman, please email over the holiday period from the December 15th to 20th of January, because I will be skiing and having fun, not really on my DMs, and I would hate to miss them, but my manager will be on my emails. So please make sure that you send an email through expressing your interest, so we can send through details and book you in for a discovery call to see if it is a good fit. A reminder that a discovery call or a consultation call doesn't mean that you have to work with me. It's just actually an opportunity to see if we jive. Because if we don't jive, obviously I don't want you working with me. I'd like to send you to somebody else. And I've got some contacts, especially if you're a man. I've got some contacts in terms of other men that are really amazing male coaches that I can recommend you to if you are not comfortable with a female coach. All right. Have an incredible day, everybody. I will talk to you all later. And I really hope that you've enjoyed this. Please share it on Instagram. And I would also love to hear your feedback from this episode. And if there's anything else you want me to touch on, or any other questions that you've got relating to this episode, can you please send them through, because I can then do like a Q&A episode on this topic. All right. Have a good day.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you got lots of chicken nuggets out of today's episode. I would be really, really grateful if you'd be able to leave me a review and a star rating that you think is appropriate, hopefully 5. And if you could share this podcast so that I can help more women live a life of flow and ease, I would be so fucking grateful. Make sure you tag me in it on Instagram so I can personally thank you, because I know so many of my clients have found me literally because their friends have posted about my podcast on their Instagram story. And I just want to help as many women as possible. So by you sharing it, I would be so fucking grateful, and I'm sure your friends would be too. If you do want to work with me, please do check out my website for all those details. And of course, you can DM me on Instagram with any other questions. If you have any podcast things you want me to talk about, any ideas, any feedback, I am always open to it, and I always love hearing what you guys have to say. So please don't hesitate about that either. I will catch you on the flip side. Have an amazing day or night wherever you are.